Welcome to another episode of Doubl3Tap. We're here again, joined by CEO and founder of Fusionist, Ike. Ike, how are you, my friend?
Good.
Easy. As a quick reminder to any viewers or listeners, nothing we say here should be considered as investment advice. This content is for informational purposes only. The views shared by Alex and I are our own, and we may have investments in some of the companies featured throughout the show. With that out the way, Ike, something we like to ask all our guests: what are you currently playing?
Dead Cell and Hades.
Oh, classics.
Yeah, I'm a roguelike guy.
Are you a speedrunner? Like, do you have any goals that you're working towards, or you just play to de-stress and have fun?
Yeah, just de-stress and have fun. I like fast-paced games. I also play Armored Core, the latest Armored Core recently. Very good game, and I get a lot of inspirations from it to the Fusionist. Try to bring it to the Fusionist.
Do you have a favorite build type?
I like a Ranger. Yeah, I don't like melee weapons. Yes, same. We played Diablo with Alex. Still choosing the Ranger.
What do you think about the mission-based structure of Armored Core? Do you like it? Like, do you like that you can kind of pick up and play, or do you
Yeah.
wish it was more of like an open world, like Elden Ring?
Uh, I think I prefer the mission better because open world takes a lot of times, and I don't have a lot of times. I try to play
So do you,
Monster Hunter. I try to pick up the Monster Hunter, the world, the diversions. It's just so, exhausting. So I give up very, very quickly. Like 2 hours after that, no way.
I did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played Monster Hunter, I think, on the PSP a ton, but
Yeah.
hmm
you played that too, yeah. Was it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Freedom or
Yes.
something? I forget what it was called, but
Yeah. I played over 400 hours on the PSP.
damn.
There we go.
400 hours. That was an old time. Good time.
Okay. Back when you had time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, always great to hear what people are playing these days. We try to play as many games as we can too. So, kind of getting to the meat of it. Based on our understanding, Fusionist is a suite of 3 interconnected games. So, for us, we were curious, why'd you decide to go with 3 different games rather than including maybe 3 different loops within a single title or a single game?
Yeah. In the beginning, we tried to, because in Web3, a lot of people have a different level of the incomes, also, relate to different expectations. So we try to use 3 tiers of the gameplay to allocate it to their perspective mode. That's the purpose. And the first game is Build Simulation, which have the lowest user entry barrier. So it's a very simple game that everybody can master. And the purpose of the first game is to generate those resources that could be used for the second 2 games. And the second games, which we conduct, 2 batch of the beta on the Steam, and the people shows a lot of appreciation of that. And that game is a turn-based RPG, so it's more like like a strategic games, and you need to understand of the ideas of all those different classes of those robots, and also you need to master all the skills of those robots. So that is actually for the gamers. So you need to once you master all those infos, and you can build your deck, and your skills will be reflected on the battles when you're competing with each other. It's not about how much money you have put into the games. You actually have to use your brain. So that's the second games. And we will release the first and the second game all together once we do the official launch. So the first game is in charge of the supply, and the second game is in charge of the demand. So, and we would like to keep operating the first 2 games for at least 12 months, and to grow the daily active user gradually, And if the balance between supply and demand breaks, we will allow more users to join. And after a period amount of times of the operations, once the DAU, the active user, reach to certain number, and our estimation is 12 months or 14 months later, and we will launch the third game, because the second game is more about like one person versus another person, so it's a one versus one, and there is no crowd conflict in the second games. But the third game, the third mode, and we will introduce like guilds versus another guilds. So that's a crowd versus crowd. And by introducing that gameplay, the consume of all those resources will be fulfilled, and that's the whole idea about the Fusionist. We want to use the game mechanism to solve the inflation problems that every project faces. And because most of the Web3 gaming projects, as we've seen, all of them have a one gameplay, right? And that they mix all the different like types of the users all together, and there's no mechanism to like prevent farmers. So that's the design behind the whole thing.
So you mentioned that for the first title, it's geared more towards players that maybe have a little bit more time, versus the second game is a little bit more towards the player, like the core players that are a little bit more focused on skill and competition.
Yeah.
So is it the player archetype that came first, or is it the game that came first? In other words, did you say, hey, here's a problem in Web3 gaming, and here are the different types of people or players that play Web3 games, and then we're going to bucket those players and design games specifically for each of those buckets? Or was it like, hey, here is the game design that is well suited for Web3, and then we're going to slot different players into that type of game design?
I think we study the user first, and to figure out what they actually needs, and then we do the design of the product, and we deliver the product to them. So it's more like user centric. You have to dig out what they really want. And to be honest, in this industries currently, we don't have a lot of like enough like actually gamer, but that will change according to the improvement or the quality of the products, because most of the game currently on the market, the quality is not that good, and that's why we spend so much time and resources on improving the quality of the game, of our game. So the quality is the insurance, and we want to, I've been asked this question, like when you see the mass adoption will come, I think a lot of people have been asked that question, right? And I've been working in the gaming industry for the last like counting to this year's already 19 years, and I have witnessed the growth of the mobile games start from 2012. And back then, the quality of all the products on the mobile is not that good. And after 2 to 3 years later, the quality have improved a lot during 1 year. All those like famous titles was developed, was shipped at that time, and that require a lot of like commitment on the quality. So if everybody like really focusing on the quality instead of the tokens, tokens is important, right? But the quality is essential. And once everybody is doing that, I think the mass adoption will come. And but you need to figure out what the user really want.
And when you say the mass adoption is coming, do you think when the mass adoption comes, it will start with the first player archetype that you mentioned, so maybe the farmers, or do you think it will be more of the skill-based gamers, or do you think it will be a different type of player base that will come in the numbers initially?
I think the skill-based players is the most essential, because for example, like a League of Legends, it's a very popular right now all over the past 10 years, right? And when I was at Tencent, we are the first batch of the people who actually put our hands on the League of Legends. And we also witnessed the growth of League of Legends. And the reason behind that was esports. And a lot of players really like the gameplay, and they do the streamings afterwards. And the streaming, on Twitch require your games to actually have it's fun to watch, right? And the graphic have to be good, and the gameplay have to be good. You have to meet those two conditions at one time. Then it is worth to watch. And once you have a lot of viewers and also a lot of streamers by playing your game or viewing your games, your user will grow enormously, very rapidly in short amount of time. And that's what we wanted to achieve of a Fusionist in the second games, because it's also esports involved.
So is the second game in Fusionist geared towards do you have ambitions for people to stream that game and for there to be much more of a competitive scene? For those that haven't, played the
Yes.
beta or aren't as familiar.
Yes, during the second beta, which we held, I think was like 4 weeks ago, and over 3,000 people have participated, and a lot of people streaming their games, and a lot of demand out there as well by how they want to learn from those peoples, like what kind of skill they should use, what kind of like deck they should build. There is need. So yeah, I think we are good. We are on the right track.
And I don't know if you guys have disclosed this yet, or if you're just kind of thinking about it and you're willing to disclose it, but have you thought about any sort of like Web3 implementations or incentives for both streamers and viewers? Are you going to try to take advantage of Web3 to kind of, bootstrap that sort of,
Yes.
competitive play? And if you are, yeah,
Mhm.
are you
Yeah.
free to share this?
Yes. We actually have a plan on that part, because we already listed our token, and we're going to use those token to incentivize those supporters, streamers, KOLs, let them to promote our games, and if the view is enough or reach a certain threshold, you can get the reward of the ACE tokens. And that's one of the advantage in Web3. In Web2, you have to do the esports first, right? Do the esports first. So first, you need to make a lot of money on modernizations, IAP stuff. And once you have enough revenue, you can host the real esports tournaments and set the price pool a lot, big chunk of the price pool, right? And let those professional players participate in that tournaments. And during the whole process, all the streamers and those medias will get involved and to share those revenues. But in Web3s, I think we could use the token ahead of that. We can skip some process and to achieve something more quickly.
And in an ideal world, will your competitive scene for Fusionist come online before you release the third title? Or does the competitive scene play into the interconnectedness of all three of the games?
We actually want to do more, actually, besides the Fusionist. So there is another project that we have built in-house, and we are looking forward to release that in February next year, 2024. So that was a mobile game, multiplayer online arena, and we built that games over the last year, and we will not launch new token for that product. That product will only use ACE tokens as the main token, as the sole token. So the Fusionist is the flagship titles of our studio. But besides Fusionist, we will do more. We actually want to grow the entire endurance ecosystems to a gaming focused and a social focused infrastructure.
Based on some information that you've shared here, as well as what we've uncovered during our own research, it seems it's fair to say that Fusionist has a large audience in specific geos such as Japan. Was that similar to your process of, identifying key player archetypes and then designing games for them? Was the key geolocations also like planned in advance, and then you created the games to target those regions?
Yes. So the game, so first of all, we haven't using any like marketing agency so far. None of them. We do all the marketing by ourselves. And the game, we have a lot of users coming from Japan. That's the fact. And also that was intentional, because our game, the theme of our game is kind of like very close to Gundam, right? So the Gundam is a very famous IP in Japan. So we do not need to spend a lot of time to educate all those users, all those potential users. They know. And also the quality of those Mac games on the market in the Web 2 is a very little, very little titles. Armor Core, the latest Armor Core just released this year, right? And before that, there's no quality Mac games. And and our game, the quality of our game is, it's also very competitive in the Web 2. It's not only competitive in the Web 3. So they appreciated the quality of the games, and also, we spend a lot of time on engaging with Japanese communities and dig up more what they really want. It's not about the game, not only about the game, also what they want for the campaign, like those NFT campaigns and those critics campaign, engagement campaigns. We dig out what they want, and we design and we follow up the new like demand, and to design a new mechanism that fit their expectations. We do the same things repeatedly for the Korean market as well, and also for the Europe and for the US.
So you already mentioned that you have done the vast majority, if not all, of your marketing in-house up until this point. And for those that don't know, you are like a foreign team for the Japanese market. You're not based in Japan. I believe the company is based in Singapore.
Yeah.
What did you have any key learnings from that process of targeting like a foreign company? Was localization very important? Did you spend a lot of time and effort targeting and partnering with key influencers within that region? Like, what were some of your key learnings?
Localization is very important. You have to come up with you have to know their cultures, and also when you release the product, especially in Japan, you have to have Japanese in your product, no doubt about it. And so and we actually got a lot of help from our community members that from Japan. They checked our localizations for us and to correct all those errors by themselves. So we appreciate that. And in Korea, of course, the same. They take very seriously about their cultures. So respect them.
Yeah.
Did you incentivize your community to help you with that? Like, did you say, hey, there's like maybe there's an asset, like a limited edition asset that you could potentially earn by helping us out? Or was there any sort of promise there? Or how did you kind of rally the
No,
community to get involved?
no, we didn't. We actually didn't. We just say, guys, we need the help on checking those localizations content. Could you guys help? They helped. But afterwards, after the listing of the tokens, we actually send our appreciation to them, to those people who have actually helped our product.
Hmm.
We send
That's
that
amazing
after,
to hear.
because all those community members, they have witnessed our growth from January to this moment. So they're pretty happy, and they shows a lot of confidence on this project to us. So they're willing to help, and and we're willing to pay back.
Sounds like you've taken a highly curated community first, like sort of grassroots strategy to grow up until now. Do you have a concrete plan in place to now scale that?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. So our main focus right now is not only oriented on Fusionist, but on the endurance. So we want to grow the ecosystem even more. And because the single game, the seeding of the single game or the single product is very, very limited, but the ecosystem is completely different stories. And we have to pay our, uh, we have to show our commitment to our community that we want something more. Then they will keep engaged and keep their confidence all the time along with us for the whole journey.
You've brought up a couple of times how it's really important to stay in your own lane and figure out what your target demo or your target market really wants. So, as Jackal mentioned, you guys are targeting Japan as one of your markets, but you're not based in Japan. So, how do you figure out what gamers want? Is that something that you've learned over the past 2 decades working in gaming and obviously crossing paths with different geos, or has this changed in Web3 and required you to do a little bit of different types of digging? And if so, what exactly did you do to kind of learn more about what exactly the markets want?
So yeah, we do have experience by publishing games in Japan before in Web2 and also in Korea. And the user portrait, to be honest, is different. But it is more easier. I think to me, it's easier to understand, those user portrait of Web3 people in certain countries. Because in Web2s, if you, we have a lot of genres of games, right? And different genres share different user portraits, and their habits are all different. But in Web3, 100% consistent. And the user populations, the population of the users are much, much lesser than Web2. So yeah, just learn. I think most of the developers in Web3, they don't have the experience on user acquisition in Web2s, and that is our advantage. One of our advantages. We did a lot of user acquisition in Web2.
And just to follow up on that, you mentioned that using the theme of mechs was very much intentional. I'm
Yes.
curious, the theme of mechs, for a variety of reasons, right? You said low switching costs. Also, there weren't a ton of titles, right, that you'd be competing against. I'm also curious about the genre. So, was the genre also influenced by the target geo? So, for those that are not familiar with the second kind of title in Fusionist, it's kind of like an SRPG, right, with a PvP and then also like a PvE element. Were you like, hey, maybe let's keep using Japan as the example. Maybe the Japanese audience is familiar with like Final Fantasy Tactics and familiar with what's the other one, Fire Emblem. But these are two games that, while they're familiar with, there are not PvP offerings or not many PvP type offerings, and that influenced your game design. I'm curious, like, is that kind of how you were thinking about it, or was it more like, hey, an SRPG kind of makes sense by putting certain things on chain, or if you could just kind of color that a little bit more, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, sure. So the reason why we chose SRPG or turn-based RPG was I'm a data-driven guy. So SRPG shares very, very high long-time retention, like day 30 and day 60 retention in Web2. And in Web3s, the retentions in average about any genres will be higher than Web2. And the SRPG shares the highest long time retention. And the retention is the most important matrix. And that was the reason why we chosen that genre. We want high retention.
And is the idea that the Web3 audience is more financially motivated than the Web2 audience? So if we focus on retention paired with the Web3 audience, we're going to get good LTVs?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Because in the second beta, we done in November this year, and we have like day one retention close to 95%, and day 15 retention I think is 85. So it's a very, very good aesthetics, and that prove our forecast.
And then, have you publicly disclosed when games 1 and 2 will either be like a little bit more in a soft launch or global launch, or how are you thinking about kind of rolling that out?
I think Q1 to Q2 next year we will do the official launch, because we haven't do any like beta of the first game, and we will do the soft launch of the first game and the second game altogether before the official launch. So it will happen next year. Busting
And
our
for
ass on
the
that.
and for the beta, it was a little bit more selective. For soft launch, will you be going to specific target geos, or will you be going to specific community members that are already involved with Fusionist and Endurance, or what's kind of the go to market for those titles?
Yeah, when we do official launch, we will it's still going to be like selective, because we don't want. It sounds weird, but in the beginning, we don't want a lot of daily active users. We want to grow more steadily, because you will make mistakes. Any game developer will make mistakes, and if you have less like daily active user or user base, the cost of the mistake will be minimized. And speaking of the beta that we already conducted in this year 2 times, and we held campaigns before the beta actually happens, and a lot of people's to have participated in those campaigns. Like in first time in May this year, like 85,000 peoples have participated in a campaign to get the beta testing key, because in the first betas we only allow like 300 people to join, and after they finish all the achievements in the first beta, they get the NFT reward and also some ACE tokens out of it. And in second beta, same thing. So we actually raised the 4 campaigns for the beta testing key for the second beta, and we will do the same things and for the soft launch. So that's the approach, I think. So you have to raise, as a project owner, you have to make sure everybody knows by holding campaigns to increase the exposure of the real event, right? And yeah, we will do the same thing all over again.
I think we would be at fault to not recognize very briefly the recent success with the ACE token launch. So congratulations there. And I think some big takeaways from this episode is that you've taken a very strong player-orientated approach to both design and launch, as well as being highly localized and sticking to your own lane. I just wanted to wrap things up by asking if there's anything else that you would recommend or highlight to any builders listening to this episode, in certain strategies that they can employ to kind of increase their chances of a successful asset launch.
Just do the user-oriented stuff, study the user portrait, and figure out like what fit the best for your target audience, and the design campaigns, mechanisms, product based on that. That's my honest advice. And yeah.
So thank you very much, Ike, for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Pleasure talking to you guys always.
Sweet.
Thanks,
all
man.
right. Till next time.
All right. Cheers, guys.
The content of this video is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice. The views shared by Alex and I are our own, and we may hold investments in some of the companies or digital assets featured in the video.